Today we're taking a look at what came in the very first installment put out by Judges Guild in 1976. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer. This is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. This video begins our look at the particular products that were produced by Judges Guild. We're starting at the beginning back in 1976 with Installment I. Hope you enjoy the video. As we take a look at the different products that were produced by Judges Guild, I thought it would be interesting to sort of start at the beginning and work our way forward. It's a really interesting company. I think I mentioned before that I'll put a card up here. I did a video on the history of Judges Guild. They're really the first company to significantly focus on producing products for dungeon masters and, as they call it, referees. Early on, they had this idea that they thought they could produce products that people would rather buy from them than try to make up for themselves, and I think they proved themselves correct. They were really successful in the early days. Then other people sort of jumped in that bandwagon, plus TSR saw what was going on, and they eventually revoked the license because they didn't want I don't know if they didn't want the competition, or they just didn't want someone else utilizing their brand, in their product. I think that hurt them. I think the other thing I mentioned in my historical video probably was just their products were really interesting and new in the 70s, but by the mid 80s, they were no longer making the best product that was getting put out there. So in any event, we're going to start in 1976, back when they had a brand new idea, right? So they went to Gen Con and they were selling these maps of what we now know as the city-state of the Invincible Overlord, right? So it's a fully designed map of the city. And their idea was, rather than just sell you a product off the bookstore shelves, that you would create a subscription to Judges Guild. And then every month you would get what they called an installment, which were some products. And it was basically, whatever we can come up with that'll be of value or interest to you, we'll create it and we'll ship it off to you every month. And so, in addition to the map, they started putting together a collection of things, and that's what we're going to look here at today. As I mentioned, this is called Installment I. The company's founded by Bob Bledsoe and Bill Owen, and Bill comes up with this idea to call it I for initial. So this is the initial installment, and it's a really weird thing with Judges Guild because they call it I. The next one will be J, then K. So they use this lettering, but they don't start, at the beginning of the alphabet, and it can be really confusing. One of the reasons I thought it might be helpful to do these videos is just to explain all this to someone who's diving into it and hasn't figured it out yet. So let's take a look at what you got with Installment I from Judges Guild. Came out in 1976. These items were created by Bob Bledsoe and Bill Owen, and the initial subscription cost was $7 for the packet. The packet would come essentially in a manila envelope, and inside you would get a journal, which was some notes, a booklet, which was more charts and rules, the city-state maps, this version for the players, so the detail information redacted. You might see the building, but you wouldn't know what was in it, for example. The dungeon tack cards, reference charts, and some dungeon maps. So all kinds of interesting stuff. Let's take a look. Here's the Judges Guild journal. This is basically a legal-sized piece of paper. It's just front and back. My version is the second printing. Because down at the bottom on the original printing it would have some numbering, like I think I-29, I-30, but mine doesn't have any, so it's the second printing. And you get some, essentially just like a newsletter from the folks at Judges Guild. I think Bob Bledsoe wrote all of those. The second thing you get is what we call the booklet, and it's sort of this smaller size, like legal size, folded in half, and then a couple of staples. It's a yellowish color to it, and this is the very first copy. I think was just plain white, and then as soon as they got these in, Bledsoe didn't like that. As I understand it, got rid of those, and you got this version. And so you've got all kinds of interesting information and charts that they've created. This one is a city encounter. And it starts with this chart up here at the top where you roll and find out whether you're going to be attacked insulted, questioned, propositioned, or some type of special encounter. And then based on which of those you get, you go to different charts on the page. And it could be men, women, sheriffs, goblins, sailors, buccaneers, pilots. If you roll the right one, you end up with a really unusual encounter. You could end up with things like trolls, golems, wraiths, etc. So all kinds of variety here in these charts. And then if you dive on into it, you get some explanation about what those different people were and how to use this. You've got some ideas for background for the city-state of the Invincible Overlord, some information about some of the key NPCs that are in the city-state of the Invincible Overlord, some additional information about a particular temple and some people that are in that temple, and generally just an introduction to help you get into the city-state of the Invincible Overlord, which is the home base, if you will, for the Judges Guild campaign. And here are the player maps. I'll get myself out of the way. And you can see these, and if you look a little closer, you'll notice, like on the buildings and so forth, there's no real labeling of what those things are or what are inside. And then you get the dungeon, the TAC cards, tactical cards. This was Bill Owen's creation that he came up with while they were working on putting the initial installment together. There were 3 different printings of these. And basically you got these cards. There's like, I've got a second or third printing, and you get these cards. There's 5 of each. They would give you information about the weapons you were using. To hit, the armor class adjusted to hit rolls you would need on the weapons that were there. And then there's some other ones like moving, withdrawing. And you would basically, the idea I think is to set these in front of you at the table based on what you were going to do. And I might do a video with a slightly more detailed look, talk exactly about what these are. And then you turned it over for most of the weapons to indicate you were going to change that weapon to something else as your move for the turn. Then you get these charts. You've got attacking for men and for monsters, saving throws, weapons, distance weapons, etc. Just basically a bunch of the charts that you would need for playing. Essentially, this is right before they had a Dungeon Master screen, so it was the same kind of idea to get a lot of the reference and material conveniently located for play at the table. And then you get this dungeon, sort of vintage, homemade, early days dungeons, right? Look at this thing. It's just awesome. Some squared rooms, some twisty turns, some caverns, all that kind of good stuff is in there. 5 levels, which is fantastic way to get started in your campaign. So that's it for Installment I, the Judges Guild initial installment from 1976. All kinds of old school goodness in that packet. And imagine the excitement you would have had coming home from Gen Con 9 and getting this in the mail and really being able to dive into this brand new game you've just learned about called Dungeons and Dragons. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's the first one of several I plan to do. I hope you're subscribed. If you have friends who might enjoy our content, please send them our way. Hopefully they can be subscribers as well. Hope you have a great day, and until next time, my friends, keep rolling 20s.